These are the top 5 meta weapons to use in Black Ops 7 right now. The build codes are on the screen right now, as well as in a pinned comment down below if that's all you're looking for. And at number 5 is the Dravec. And this is the class you'll most likely see me using a ton because it's not banned by the pros, but stay tuned for the number 1 class as it's literally already been banned by the pros in Black Ops 7. That's legitimately how good it is. But starting here with the Dravec, this is a very mid-range submachine gun. If you played the beta, you know what I'm talking about, but here at the muzzle, it's a very interesting muzzle because it actually helps with your movement speed. The gun already shoots fairly straight, so I feel like this is a good attachment to use. If you notice you're not able to shoot this gun very straight, it might help to do either the Hawker series for vertical recoil control or the stabilizer for first shot recoil control. I think this gun at its base is accurate enough to where you can afford to increase your mobility with the Hawker hybrid, so that's what we're going with. The next attachment, the barrel, is going to be the 14-inch verse barrel. This one's for damage range and bullet velocity, kind of like the reinforced from Black Ops 6 if you remember that. Eventually we might want to look into the damage range barrel. I feel like right now the bullet velocity is pretty noticeable, so that's why I'm running the 14-inch verse for both the damage range and bullet velocity. Up next, for the magazine, we're actually use the front gate fast loader. This helps with reload quickness, but that's not necessarily what we're interested in. It's the aim down sight speed and the sprint to fire speed, and it only lowers your magazine size from what, like, is it 36? From 36 to 30, so you're only missing out on 6 bullets, and in return you get a faster aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed, so that's why we're using that. The next attachment is going to be the rear grip. We're going to use the Herald Z1 grip for slide to fire, dive to fire, and aim down sight speed. This is pretty much the ergonomic from Black Ops 6. A lot of people as well have been using either the quick arm or the Helix for sprint to fire strictly or aim down sight speed. For now, I'm liking the Herald just because I'm doing a lot of sliding, but if you notice yourself in a lot of sprint to fire engagements, I might swap to the Helix tack grip. For now though, I'm rocking the Herald, and then the last attachment that we're using for the stock is going to be the Defiant 45 skeletal stock for aim walking movement speed and flinch resistance. When you're in gunfights in this game, there is a decent amount of flinch. If you want to use something like the Heritage or the Serval for strictly aim walking movement speed like the infill stock from Black Ops 6, or this is more like the balance stock from Black Ops 6, you can use either of these. For now, I'm liking having the flinch resistance as well as a little bit of help in the aim walking movement speed category. So it's similar to the infiltrator stock. You'll find yourself winning more head-on engagements with this class too. So that's class number 5. And before we get into class number 4, let's go over the pistol, the field upgrades, and all the perks that I'm using right now. So the pistol, this is the 3-round burst one, and it's absolutely insane. I've been using it in wagers, and to be honest, it's so good up close. It's sometimes better than having a submachine gun out. It's a 3-round burst pistol similar to the Renetti from previous CODs. What we're using for the muzzle is the one from first shot recoil control, the Greaves 5.7. The barrel, I'll just go through these quickly because it's a pistol. We're using the jump shot barrel for movement speed, weapon swap speed, so it's pretty much like having fast hands without having fast hands. I'll show you there. And then up next is the magazine. We're just increasing it to 18 rounds, super easy. Rear grip is going to be the perennial, which is pretty much the ergonomic grip with aim down sight speed, slide to fire speed. And then for the last attachment, the recoil springs for horizontal and vertical recoil control. This gun's pretty crazy, I'm not gonna lie. You'll one burst people up close and it'll freaking blow your mind. The rest of the classes that's pretty standard across the board are rocking perk greed. I don't have gunfighter on any of the upcoming classes, so perk greed has been nice. For wagers and competitive, we're using ninja, fast hands, dexterity, and lightweight. If you're strictly playing pubs, you can opt out of lightweight. It might be more beneficial to have, let's see, for perk greed, like a flak jacket. It also might be beneficial to have ghost or cold-blooded. We don't have to worry about those in competitive, but if you're a public match player, that's something to keep in mind as well. Also, one thing that I'm messing around with is maybe going for tech mask instead of fast hands, especially with that, what is it, the rear grip that we were just talking about? The barrel that has weapon swap speed. Now that I'm using that, I might opt into running tech mask on these classes, just because you don't necessarily have to worry about reloading or swapping weapons faster if you already have that attachment on. Tech mask will just keep you safe from stuns, which is going to be pretty nice as well. Trophy system, stun, and Simtex. And like I said, this is staying pretty consistent throughout. And with class number 5, as well as the perks being done, let's move on to class number 4, which is the Razor 9mm. This is one of my personal favorites. It's not a do-it-all. This is the only submachine gun that really feels like a submachine gun to me, which is what I like the most about it. It's not going to be the best gun in the game right now, which is why it's at class number 4. But as we build this, you'll realize it's mainly for up close, for the quick time to kill, just sending a lot of bullets down range. You'll have to really make sure that your positioning and your rush routes are optimal for using this class. But let's go over it anyways. For the competitor, we're going to use the 9mm precision comp. This is for strictly vertical recoil control. This is pretty much like the Scorpion from Black Ops 2, so it's very high fire rate, very high recoil. So you're going to need to do whatever you can to lower that recoil, and that starts with the muzzle right here. Up next for the barrel, we're actually going to use the 9.5 synthesis barrel for damage range and bullet velocity. I was messing around with the Sidewinder because it does help with recoil stabilization, but it just slows the gun down so much that you're losing your identity of this being a submachine gun in the first place. So that's why we're landing with the synthesis. Up next, we're skipping the underbarrel and magazine and going to the rear grip. We're going to use the Ready Flex grip for sprint to fire speed and jumping sprint to fire speed. With all the wall jumping that you're going to be doing and all the movement that you'll be doing, you'll want that sprint to fire. You can also mess with the ergonomic, like the micro dot, if you're sliding a ton, but for this class I just want to get like up close and personal, and that's why I really want to have the sprint to fire speed benefit with the Ready Flex. Next for the stock, we're gonna use the Renegade pad for aim walking movement speed and flinch resistance. Very similar to why we're using it on the Dravec, is because you get the aim walking movement speed like it's an infill, and then the flinch resistance so that when people are shooting back at you, your gun's not bouncing around as much. And then of course the last attachment is going to be the recoil springs for horizontal and vertical recoil control. This gun needs it, so make sure that you have this, or at least like an underbarrel that helps out with horizontal recoil control or something like that. Again, not the best class, but the best submachine gun for Black Ops 7. This game is very AR dominant right now, and I imagine it's going to stay that way for a little bit, which is why the remaining 3 classes are going to be AR. So class number 4 out of the way. Class number 3 is actually the MXR. This is a slow fire rate, super powerful assault rifle. This is one of the more popular ones right now when it comes to search and destroy chows. So you'll see why in a second. I think there's like a 3-bullet headshot potential, so it can kill really fast if you hit your shots. Start at the muzzle, we're going to go with the Redwell 7.62 break for first shot recoil control and vertical recoil control. On a gun like this, where like I said, you can 3-bullet, you want to make sure that the first 3 shots that you're hitting are actually on target, which is why that first shot recoil control with this muzzle is going to be super important. Up next for the barrel, we're going to use the 18-inch Rift M7. This is just the reinforced damage range and bullet velocity. Pretty standard, pretty obvious why we would want to use that. Up next for the underbarrel, we're actually going to use the quick step foregrip. This helps speed you up, so your hip fire movement speed, and aim walking movement speed are all helped with this foregrip. Basically what we're doing is trying to improve the movement speed, and also when you're ADSing, your strafe speed is going to be insane. And then the final 2, the stock, we're actually going to use the aim walking movement speed and flinch resistance stock. This changes how the gun looks, so you don't get a rear grip anymore, you get a comb, but I believe it's the same thing. We're going to use the celerity, which is for aim down sight speed, and jumping aim down sight speed, which speeds the gun up a little bit, on top of, like we said, this stock right here. That's pretty much the infill with the flinch resistance. All of these should be pretty obvious why we're throwing it together like this. You're going to be in head-on engagements, and you want to make sure that you're hitting your first couple shots. That's the reasoning behind doing the flinch resistance with the stock, and then the first shot recoil control with the muzzle. And just in case y'all haven't used this gun yet, this is the 3-bullet potential. I mean, even at mid-range, you can 3-bullet headshot. This gun will probably get banned soon, but until then, you might want to use it. It's just a slow fire rate gun, so that's another thing you have to get used to as well. And with class number 3 out of the way, let's move on to class number 2, which is the M15. This is the do-it-all gun in Black Ops 7 right now. The most popular, especially in competitive and like search and destroy chows. Not quite as overpowered as class number 1, which, like I said, is already banned, but this will be a close second and probably the most popular gun that you see the pros using right now. So we're starting with the optic. We're going to use the Lethal Tools ELO for just kind of like having a default red dot sight. Up next for the muzzle, we're going to use the Redwell 5.56 for vertical recoil control. This gun has a higher fire rate, so that's why we're looking more so at this than at the first shot recoil control. But as you'll see later down the road with this class, we're going to be heavily emphasizing the recoil control just so you're hitting all your shots down range. Up next for the barrel, pretty typical. We're going to use the fusion barrel for damage range and bullet velocity, keeping this gun lethal at all ranges. And then the final 2 attachments for the rear grip, we're actually going to go with the contraband grip. This is pretty much like the recoil springs. It's horizontal recoil control and recoil stabilization. On a gun like this that, like I said, is very much a do-it-all. It can perform well at all ranges. This just helps extend that range even further, and you're going to be hitting way more shots down range. So we're going contraband, and then the last attachment, the stock, it was going to be the Wander 3V for aim walking movement speed. Kind of similar to that last assault rifle, you could use the intervention for aim walking and flinch resistance, but on a gun like this, you're going to be looking to use it at all ranges, including up close and middle range, and that infiltrator stock like benefit of the aim walking movement speed is going to help out a ton. And that's going to do it for the M15 right here. Like I said, the most popular class that you'll see in pro play right now, and definitely one that you want to get used to. This gun's not good enough to get banned yet. Class number 1 is, and it's the AK-27. Like literally on all the wager websites, you're not allowed to use this gun anymore, and I'll show you why after we build this class. For the muzzle, we're going to use the EMT3 compensator for vertical recoil control. You could go back and forth between this one or the Eclipse. We're going to stay fairly standard with the majority of this class. We're going to use the Tumult for the damage range and bullet velocity. Up next for the underbarrel, we're going to use the Iron Hold angle grip for aiming idle sway and horizontal recoil control. This just helped this gun across the board in terms of its recoil and idle sway. The rear grip, we're going to continue that help with the Chronos Heavy Grip for horizontal recoil control and recoil stabilization, pretty similar to the M15 class that we just went over. And then the last attachment, the stock, we're going to use the Victor ZR for aim locking movement speed. And if you thought the M15 was a do-it-all gun, this is the M15 on steroids. And like I said, it's pretty much been banned by all wager sites and by the pros, so this is more so if you're grinding pubs or looking for a first gun to get gold in Black Ops 7. It truly does it all, and I promise you'll love it if you try it out. And that's going to do it for my top 5 early meta loadouts for Black Ops 7. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time at lunchtime.